Well, as you reported earlier in the news headlines, we've had Merafe Resources out with results for the first half of this year. And joining me live at the JSE right now is the company's CEO and Stuart Elliot. Thanks so much, Stuart, for joining us this afternoon. Well, we've got Merafe swinging to first half profit, but the recovery has been slow. You forecast gradual recovery in ferrochrome demand by the end of this year. What's the operating context looking like now, and what do you see changing in the fourth quarter?
Well, certainly what we've seen in the first 6 months, we've been operating around about 85% capacity. Demand was very good from a demand-supply side point of view. They were equally matched. Ferrochrome stock levels remained unchanged, relatively low, 10 to 12 weeks. Towards the end of June, we started to see a slight dip, and that was on the back of nickel prices going down. We've seen stimulus packages globally, specifically in the vehicle market. Those have been withdrawn in America, Europe, and in China. And China's actually made a conscious effort to stop the overheating there. So we've seen a relaxation in demand.
Of that coming through in those PMI numbers out of China yesterday.
Absolutely. However, having said that, we believe China is relatively destocked, and we're seeing that in Europe. Nickel prices have started to turn, so there's some positive signs coming out of that. From an operating point of view, we cut our capacity in the winter months, June, July, August. That's because electricity prices double. So we cut our capacity to 65. Our stocks remain low. So we will only take a decision come September on what we're going to do from a ramping up point of view. But there are positive signs. There may be some bumps along the way. But because there's no new capacity coming on stream, end of 2010, 2011, we will start to see a supply squeeze in ferrochrome.
So no forecast just yet as to where you're going to be ramping up capacity, current capacity, to over the next 6 months?
No, it's a little bit too early to tell. We will only make that decision at the end of the winter months. So it's essentially the end of August.
Yeah. Well, what's your outlook then as far as production is concerned, and where ferrochrome inventory levels remain low at 10 to 12 weeks at this stage of the game? What level would you like that hitting moving forward?
From a safety net point of view, I think every producer would like to have more stock, but we have not physically been able to do that. 85% capacity with restrictions from Eskom. All of that material has been sold in the first two quarters. If power prices didn't double, I think we would have built that buffer up. So at the moment, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have shortages of stock. I think the industry's been very disciplined. As soon as we have seen demand coming down, there's been an immediate cut in capacity.
To what extent, let's take a look at the local unit, is the stronger rand working to offset some of the higher prices we've seen on the chrome front, where for this year so far, chrome prices have increased 60%?
Yeah, we've certainly seen that. In fact, we've seen it over the last year. The rand has come down from 9 Rand 20 a year ago down to what we average is 7 Rand 50. That certainly has an effect on our business. But what is important to know is that South Africa produces 45% of the world's ferrochrome. And if it's not profitable, there are issues there. So as the rand has strengthened, we've been able to push up ferrochrome prices on the back of strong demand as well. So there is a natural hedge because of our dominance as an industry.
What about when it comes to operational costs? I mean, you mentioned the constraints that higher electricity tariffs has on your business. As capacity comes back online, to what extent do you see the power tariff increases that have been implemented here in South Africa bearing on your margins?
The power tariff increases will certainly have an effect, but you need to remember it's just a component of our costs. In terms of our inputs, we have ore feeds, reductants, and we've managed to reduce costs by 13% there for the 6 month under review. And that was really because of the optimization of the use of ore and reductants. And in addition to that, you have a labor cost as well, and the general shipping cost. So power's not complete cost component. It will have an effect. It affects every producer in South Africa equally. But because we have energy efficient technology, we feel that gap will grow wider between ourselves and our competitors, specifically when it comes to Primus, and specifically the money that we are actually putting into projects Welepele.
Let's take a look at some of these projects. I mean, where you're still facing power constraints, you're considering cogeneration projects to actually plug in the power deficit. What kind of developments are we seeing unfold on that front?
On the cogeneration front, we're a small business. We can't afford to actually go out there and build a coal-powered or nuclear a generator. What we need to do is be able to harness the off gases that we generate, put those through a generation capacity and feed that back into the system. But we're not rushing into it. We're looking at a variety of technologies. Once you've made a decision based on long-term returns, we will then activate it.
On that note, let's leave it there. Stuart, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. That, of